Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. This is West Virginia right now, and I'm your host, Chris Miller, along with
Wes Thompson.
And we are here with a really, really fun guest. We're here with Brandon Steele, who is a key member in the House of Delegates right here in West Virginia out of Raleigh County.
Yes, out of Raleigh County.
And Brandon is also a practicing attorney and also a Marine. So we're going to have a fun show today and talk about all kinds of stuff.
Oh, it sounds great.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Brandon, why did you get into politics to begin with?
I tell you, I've said the same thing the entire time I've been there. I've been in the House. This will be my third term coming up. And, you know, you go back to being in the Marines, and I remember I had a senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Webb, and we got toward the end of boot camp, and I don't remember what happened that day or what was going on that day, but I always had this attitude of just let him yell at you and kind of, you know, stay away from it so much. And I guess he noticed that, you know, toward the end. And he says to me, he says, you know, Steele, you know, you're a thinker and you think a whole lot. And he said, I'm going to tell you something. You're going to see things in the Marine Corps that you don't like and you don't particularly agree with. And he said, you got two options with it. He said, either you can do your time and get out of here and move on, or you can stay in and change it. And that's kind of the way I looked at my life here in West Virginia. You know, I went to law school in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at Marquette University. Loved it there. You know, it was a real eye-opening experience, you know, to live up there for 4 years. And of course, being in the Marines and stuff like that, you know, you got to travel around a lot. But I've pretty much lived in West Virginia my entire life. And coming back, starting a small business, you know, being a small town lawyer and, you know, working in my community and seeing the issues that we had, it was kind of like, well, I could be doing this in South Carolina or North Carolina, you know. So it really came down to me as like, okay, if you don't like something, are you going to stay in and change it, or are you going to leave? And that's when I decided to run in 2018. And, you know, I've had a lot of good success with it. You know, I've been able to change some things. There's some things that I still want to work on. But the biggest thing to me is, you know, going back to that, are you going to leave, or are you going to stay here and change it and make it something better? And that's kind of why I got into it. I love being here. I love being a West Virginian. I love being in southern West Virginia. And I want my kids to be able to grow up that way too and enjoy it here. So that's kind of why we're doing it.
If the Battle Hymn of a Republic was playing in the background right now while you were giving that speech, I mean, I probably would have stood up and said, you know, put my hand on my heart and said the Pledge of Allegiance too. That was awesome. So did you go right into the Marines after high school?
Yeah, I actually missed my high school graduation for it. It was I had been at Parris Island for I think 3 or 4 days when everybody else
no way.
went to graduation. I was 17. My mom had to sign the papers for it, so we always joke that her and I both joined the Marine Corps. She actually signed the papers. And I turned 18 when I was at Parris Island. So, yeah, went right out of high school and then came back here to West Virginia and went to college at the time Mountain State University in Beckley. Now it's West Virginia Tech's taken over that campus and everything, and worked as a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual for 10 years.
That's a great experience.
Oh, it was phenomenal. It's a great company. It's actually how I ended up at Marquette. Is, you know, I went to law school later in life. There's a few of us that have, you know. So I didn't go to law school right out of college. I worked, you know, for 10 years, but I'd always wanted to go to law school. Is a bug that I never really got past. So when I looked at going to law school, I needed to work. So I was looking at evening part-time programs where I could also have a job making enough money to support myself. And, you know, Marquette is in Milwaukee. Northwestern Mutual's based out of Milwaukee. So I applied to Marquette, you know, really, really late, like thinking I might get waitlisted or something like that. I got accepted. And I drove up there. It was right around spring break. I drove up there and called a couple people at the home office at Northwestern Mutual and said, hey, you know, I got into law school at Marquette. I'm looking for a job up there, you know, and I drove. I just got in my truck and drove to Chicago. Spent the night with my uncle and drove up. Met with some people at Northwestern like 8 o'clock in the morning that morning, and by 10:30 I had a job. By 10:30 a.m. I had a job up there, in the middle of the greatest recession we've seen since the Great Depression, which is amazing for a financial advisor to be able to do that. So I worked during the day managing qualified retirement plans, pension plans, and stuff like that in downtown Milwaukee, and went to law school at night for 4 years.
So with Northwestern Mutual, you weren't selling life insurance, you were managing investment plans.
So I started off just like everybody else would have, with selling life insurance and things like that. And of course, I'm just naturally inclined to the investment side of things more than anything. But probably the biggest thing that I enjoyed doing was working on corporate 401ks and retirement plans, profit sharing plans, things like that. So there was just this great series of events where, the Goris agency with Tom Goris, he was the managing partner of one of the downtown Milwaukee agencies, and now he's in Chicago managing one of the largest ones. But Tom's retirement plan guy just left, and I just happened to show up like that week, and he's like, "I got a hole. I need somebody to fill it," and took me in. I drove halfway across the country and went to law school, and worked in that business during the day and went to law school at night. It just worked out. Right when you think there's not a way, God always makes one. So. And
how old were you when you went to law school?
I was 29.
So you probably, what did you do, 4 years in the service?
I was in the reserve. I was in the Marine Reserve. So I did 6 years, and I was in the combat engineer unit here in Cross Lanes, just down the street. And a lot of my friends, I don't know how they do it. The Marine Corps beats your body up. I did 8 years, and there's guys that have been in there 24, 25, 27. I'm like, good Lord, you guys. Uh-huh. I mean, how do you take that much punishment, on your body like that? But a lot of good guys down there. It's a really good unit, and I've always been proud of that experience. So it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah, that Northwestern Mutual, that the training systems that they have. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a Warren Buffett company, right? It's owned by Berkshire Hathaway.
No. Mass Mutual is owned by Berkshire Hathaway.
I thought it was Northwestern Mutual.
Northwestern is still a mutual company. So the policy owners actually still own Northwestern.
Got it.
And I could be wrong. No, it's not Mass Mutual. Mass Mutual is still a mutual company. Warren Buffett, Berkshire bought, if I'm not mistaken, Guardian.
Okay.
Is who they have, I believe. I think, but
we need to fact check that one if I'm giving the wrong information.
No, it's and Northwestern Mutual did back in the '60s come up with basically the sales system that all insurance and investment companies use, the Granum system.
Everybody that I know that is a Northwestern Mutual agent, they not only they work incredibly hard, it's very, very organized, but it is like that entire sales system is dialed in. It's dialed in.
Yes, it's probably one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
So, and you could apply it to anything, really. Yeah.
That's right. So living in Chicago, how long did you live there?
Well, I was in Milwaukee. I was there for 4 years and came back to West Virginia at the end of 2013.
2013 you came back.
Yeah.
And was that, had you met your wife by then, or?
Yes. So interesting. My wife, I've actually known her going back to when we were kids. I'm 5 years older than her. I just never noticed her. And, came back and we started dating and got married. And now I have 2 older children from a previous marriage, and we have 3 together. So, our 3 kids together, and we just live down in Beckley,
Awesome. My wife's from Ohio, and my brother's wife's from Ohio, and we always joke that we had to leave the state to find somebody to live with. Yeah. So you come back 2013. You don't get into the House of Delegates for another 5 years.
Right.
What'd you do for those 5 years?
Well, I was just practicing.
Okay.
Just practicing law. And, I came back to Fayetteville. Excuse me. I came back to Fayetteville, and I practiced there. And that was interesting. You have you had two judges in Fayette County that were kind of revered across the state as one of the hardest places to practice in front of. There were people that would avoid it, but if you were there and a part of that, it taught you a whole lot real fast. A lot of things go to trial in Fayette County, especially criminal cases, which, down south we have the compulsory court appointments. I always call it Medicaid for attorneys. I mean, you're forced into doing it. A lot of people say to you, well, how do you represent that guy? He's a murderer or a child molester, this and that. You don't have a choice in it. And the judge orders you to represent someone, you just Atticus Finch it and get the job done. Remember that from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Kill a Mockingbird,
yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly, a judge looks at you and says, you're going to represent this guy, and it's your job now. And it's part of your ethical obligation. A lot of people don't realize we do that to attorneys in West Virginia, especially southern West Virginia, where you don't have enough attorneys. I know to a lot of people that's kind of like, oh, you got to be kidding me. There's plenty of attorneys around. No. In Morgantown and Charleston, there are. Outside of that, that's
exactly right.
It's a little.
There's a fair stake in Huntington too.
Yes. Huntington's well represented, and Charleston and Morgantown. Southern West Virginia, though, in the coal fields, you wind up getting a lot of trial experience real fast with the compulsory court appointments. So, a lot of guys will get mad at me for saying this, but I really feel that being in a rural community like a Wyoming County, a Fayette County, a Summers County, and even Raleigh County to an extent, you can gain a lot of valuable trial experience very quickly. If you're willing to put in the work. And some of the most talented lawyers you'll find come right out of southern West Virginia because of that. You could work in Charleston for one of the big firms for 20 years and never see the inside of a courtroom. Whereas down south, you're going to be there every day.
Well, I mean, the incentive is to stay out of a courtroom, in particular from a legal standpoint, because of the costs.
Right.
It is very, very expensive to try something. Now, it sounds like some of the stuff you're doing is more criminal defense.
In the beginning, yeah, it was. Now, I'm mainly, I still get some court appointments. The judges are a little easier on me where I'm in the legislature, for 2 months out of the year, I have to call them like, hey, I can't do anything in this case. I'm in the legislature. And, so they try to be cognizant of that, of not appointing me to too much because they wind up having to get another lawyer to take it over, at some point. So I mainly work in the trucking industry with compliance, just typical corporate stuff, contracts, employment issues. I do have a few corporate clients like that, and like any small town lawyer, you've handled your share of a fender bender or something along those lines. You handle wills and deeds and things like that. But most of my work is, I'd say 90% of it is corporate.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so you get into the House of Delegates in 2018. What are the reasons that you had that you wanted to run for the House of Delegates? What are the issues, like the things that jumped out at you were like, man, I got to get involved and fix this?
Well, I had worked in the prosecutor's office for a couple years prior to running. And you just saw over and over and over again, possession with intent to deliver, to wit, oxycodone. I mean, that was every single case. I mean, we'd run 350 indictments a year in Raleigh County. I guarantee you 250 of them were possession with intent to deliver or delivery of oxycodone. And going from, I remember sitting in the office and looking at the cases, and you can almost draw a line around 2016. If the case number was 2015, 2014, like it takes a couple years sometimes, especially with the drug lab has to process everything before you get the case going. Most of those cases, going back that far, were oxycodone. Then something happened and it became heroin. You started seeing possession with intent to deliver heroin.
My understanding, and listen, I am talking somewhat ignorantly, but I have been informed a little bit on this. My understanding is actually law enforcement did such an amazing job of eradicating prescription drug abuse or sale
Yeah.
that it actually just led to necessity's the mother of invention. Can't get Loratab, can't get oxycodone anymore. We've got to go to heroin. We've got to go to meth. We've got to go to whatever we can make. Is that fair?
That's pretty much what happened. And you know, you had a concerted effort from really 2010, 2012 up through 2016 between the state, local law enforcement, as well as the federal government through, whether it be going after pharmacists, going after doctors and things like this, of cracking down on that. It became much, much more difficult to get, your hands on prescription opiates at that point. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Is like when you're in the Marines, if you happen to be out too long one night and you get in at 3 a.m. and you got to be in formation at 5 a.m. for a run. A lot of us could go by the corpsman. The Navy corpsman was our doctors. Marines don't have their own doctors. So you could go to sick call, and they would have saline bags for you there. And you could get an IV before you had to go run, and they would put a little codeine in it for you if you wanted to. And it was that easy to just go in and tell them. It's like, hey, I'm a little hungover. I needed to.
So I would guess near impossible for that to happen now.
No, if they knew what we were doing back in 2000, 2002, 2003, 2004, I remember watching television. You probably remember it too, where 2020 and 60 Minutes and stuff. We're talking about this new miracle drug, oxycodone.
Man, so what happened with oxycodone was that the company and the family that created Valium and made a whole bunch of money on it, they started cracking down on Valium production and the prescriptions of Valium. And so then the next step was we had to find another money-making thing. So they took hydrocodone and then made it time-released. And hydrocodone's a pretty strong opiate. And they basically created OxyContin or oxycodone by making a time-released, longer-form version that digested slower in the system of hydrocodone. And then they started realizing how incredibly addictive it was, and they started suppressing that information. And one of the other things that led to the constant availability and supply from the physician and pharmaceutical side of things was that there were Medicare and Medicaid patient satisfaction surveys where the hospitals and the physicians were hooked into having to, encourage the prescription of this stuff because they were graded on their Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement rates were graded on patient satisfaction. So patients come in and get hooked on this, and then they would literally get dinged, the hospitals would, on their reimbursement rates.
Because they told them no.
Yeah, because they told the patients no. So it just kept the thing going. And it literally led to a huge substance abuse issue from an opiate level, and then they started cracking down on the supply. And then here's what happens. The Mexicans go, we can make a bunch of money shipping up black tar heroin to replace this OxyContin stuff. And so the Mexicans literally started shipping black tar heroin over to us. And that's why the border issue is so important. But this whole thing is like, the opiate epidemic is literally, you can pinpoint its start to making money through pharmaceuticals by finding a way to replace what was a major revenue source for big pharma by Valium went off and they popped back in and they figured out how to take hydrocodone and make it very, very addictive and created OxyContin. I mean, it is what has happened to Appalachia and what has happened to West Virginia is literally an embarrassment. What they've done to us by creating a highly addictive substance and then pulling it off the market and then letting black tar heroin come in has literally led to destitute for a lot of our people. I mean, it is a shame, and it's happened especially in southern West Virginia and in the Huntington area, but it's all over the country as well. I mean, this is something I'm really passionate about. We are victims in a lot of senses of the definition to the opiate epidemic because it was deliberate. They knew how highly addictive it was. They suppressed the information. They suppressed the research. They lied to doctors. They knew about this stuff. And some way, somehow, we're going to figure this thing out and make sure that these pharmaceutical companies pay for it. But this whole thing, this opiate epidemic was deliberate. Well, I'm sorry for going on a tirade about Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, the opiate epidemic, but man, it's just something I'm pretty passionate about. So anyway, you get into the House of Delegates in 2018 And what are some of the other things that really made you want to do that?
Well, we've got a lot of things coming up. One, going after the opioid epidemic, and then just having a passion for Southern West Virginia, wanting to see the growth. One of the things that always amazed me about being in Milwaukee was, I managed retirement plans, so I would meet business owners and, go out to dinner with them and different things, go to different events, and you would go to a dinner or something like that. And you'd have two business owners sitting there, a couple people, and they'd be talking. And I go to these things. You got people sitting here talking about putting $25 million into a warehousing project, and then they're going to manufacture X, Y, and Z and ship it to this guy. Well, this guy's got a trucking company with 300 trucks. He can do logistics from L.A. And it's like, what kind of bed do you guys wake up in the morning where you get to have conversations like this? It just opened my eyes. It's like, I didn't hear any of this back home. I worked with business owners back home. I mean, that's how I got into that side of the business. But, what I realized of watching them was they had what I called an abundance mentality. That there was enough opportunity for everyone that if I help you and I help you, then there's going to be more for all of us. It's a rising tide lifts all ships. Whereas I grew up in a place, and you guys grew up in a place where we had a scarcity mentality. There's so few resources. I've got to hold on to what I got and protect it over here and make sure you don't get it from me because there's not enough to go around. And I don't think government can change that. I mean, so let's just say that what it is. I don't think government can change that. But I think what government can do is take somebody like you or like me that has a belief in that abundance mentality and give them a platform that we start enacting policies with that abundance mentality in mind, that we're not blocking things out. One of the things I'm most proud of is removing the ban on nuclear power in West Virginia. You look at West Virginia right now, we are the number 5 energy producer in the country. Number 5. That's amazing. We are the heart and lungs of the East Coast. I mean, right there. And 92% of our power comes from coal. It's coal-fired energy. And, so if we're putting out 14,000 megawatts a year, okay, probably 12,500 of it is coal-fired, okay? Nothing wrong with that. I'm a big coal guy. I mean, I represent Coal City. I mean, that's the heart of my district is Coal City, West Virginia. State champion Independence Patriots down there, 2A. But, you look at that as a coal guy, and I am passionate about the coal industry and want to support it. The biggest thing we can do to help the coal industry is diversify our production, and I'll tell you why. So I'm doing 14,000 megawatts right now. So the city of D.C. Metro, Baltimore, places like this, they would go into power purchase agreements with West Virginia if 20% of our grid was what they would consider carbon-free or carbon neutral. Nuclear is considered carbon neutral, and nuclear is the only carbon-neutral energy production that is baseload energy production. So, wind, not baseload. Solar, not baseload. So if you can put up 2,000 megawatts of nuclear, all right, we just took our grid from 14,000 to 16,000. Now DC Metro wants to go into a power purchase agreement with us. Now there's manufacturing facilities that consume 400 or 500 megawatts a year that are wanting to locate here to become part of that grid and get that consistent, stable energy. Okay, you have a 15-year window here in the United States where we're going to more than double our electric energy consumption. So West Virginia, if they can put that 2,000 megawatts of nuclear in, all of a sudden demand's going to go up. We're going to need more. Well, how are you going to do more? Coal. You're going to take your coal production from 12,500 megawatts. It's going to go up to 16,000 megawatts as we have more people on our grid consuming it from an industrial standpoint. And you're going to have more places like a Baltimore, like a Charlotte, like a DC, or even Winchester or Northern Virginia, the entire area, that are, not only do we depend on energy production being a big part of what we do. It puts food on the table, keeps our kids in school and clothes on their back and roofs over their head. The rest of the United States is counting on us too. We've got to get it right. We've got to get it right, because if we don't do it, their lights don't come on. They don't get, air conditioning in the summer or heat in the winter in New York City if we don't get it right. So we got to get into a place where we're diversifying that grid, because that's ultimately going to strengthen the coal industry, because it's the only baseload thing that you can turn on in an instant is coal. And people can say whatever they want to about fossil fuel energy production. We're not getting away from it any time in the next 100 years. There better be an Albert Einstein come along and wave a magic wand over this.
And it's going to be even bigger because if you look at what's happening in the Ukraine, and then all of a sudden what that does, because for a demand in energy in Europe, there's going to be a demand for coal in the future, not just now. And you're finally getting people to open up their mind and go like, wait a minute, this isn't so bad. It's the only way we can cost effectively produce energy to keep, the elderly heated during the wintertime. Like for example, what's happening in Switzerland. I don't know if you read about that or not, but they're literally pulling electric vehicles off their grid to make sure that there's enough power to allocate to keep the elderly warm in the wintertime. That's what they're having to do. So there is going to be a further demand as we move forward with coal. And that's literally what's going to be very important for West Virginia. What you're describing right now is an absolute game changer for us. And it's something we need to make a complete and utter concerted effort to get done. And so the next step, like you said, is nuclear, because it opens up so many options.
Nuclear, hydrogen, so many of those newer technologies. And I know nuclear is not a new technology, but what is a new technology in the nuclear field is SMR, small modular reactors, that as we start looking for, different avenues of energy exploration, like say up into the Arctic Circle, once you get so far north, that's where a lot of the coal deposits and oil deposits and things like this that are attractive to industry to go after, that's where they're at. Well, you can't ship diesel fuel up there. You have to produce energy somehow in a reliable way. Well, the way to do it is with a modular nuclear reactor. And right now, Westinghouse is making them right across the state line in Waltz Mill, PA, 40 minutes from Morgantown. And what they're wanting to do is bring that to Morgantown, put a research reactor at Morgantown that is going to be the prototype of a 5 megawatt nuclear reactor that can power some of these deep mines that are up in the Arctic Circle that you can't get diesel fuel to, not in an affordable way. That you could put this thing on a couple helicopters and fly it up there, and you could power a mine for 7 years. A mining operation, a small city.
Huge.
It's huge. It's huge. And that opportunity, and when you look at that new technology, the United States' nuclear infrastructure is at a standstill, because after 3 Mile Island, we just quit. There wasn't any new nuclear reactors built. Well, you can't just use concrete from down at the local supply, or you need specialized metals, you need specialized concrete. There's all these special materials that you need made. Well, if Westinghouse is wanting to get into that business and they want it to be at WVU, what do you think is going to grow up around Morgantown? It's going to be nuclear infrastructure. And it's going to be the kind of nuclear infrastructure you need to do it for a long period of time. Those jobs are huge. Huge. And when we look at the opportunity there, that is a 150-year opportunity. It's not something that, okay, this is going to be a good business for 20 years. No, you can't just walk away from nuclear after 20 years.
No, but it's also incredibly safe. And sometimes it can be branded as not, but it is incredibly safe. Yeah. And you look at what happened in Japan with the tsunami, mm-hmm. They did not have a problem with their nuclear power whatsoever, aside from that tsunami. And the unique thing about West Virginia, and this is one of the reasons why I'm such a strong, proponent of nuclear, is we are impervious to earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, any sort of like weather natural disaster that exists. Doesn't happen in West Virginia at all. And so, we literally, I think, are the perfect place to really grow and develop these small modular reactors and also the better nuclear power from an infrastructure standpoint.
And it's going to, like you said, we're the perfect place for it. And not only are the people we representing counting on us to get this right, the rest, like I said, the rest of the country our national security depends on us getting this done. And that's exciting to be a part of.
Absolutely. One of the other unique things that we're facing in our country is we have a utility grid system that is very challenged. And as we've moved forward with some of these, what I'll just go ahead and say is stupid federal policies, forcing a lot of electric vehicles down the throats of American consumers, we don't have an electrical or utility grid system in place where we can take 10% of the cars on the road today and convert them to electric vehicles without causing massive brownouts and blackouts countrywide. And so that's why the nuclear and the hydrogen and the hydro and water sources of power, because they are all great baseload providers aside from coal, that are really going to make it. We could put West Virginia in a sweet spot of effectively turning us into the battery of the East Coast if we play our cards right. And it's vital because not only is it we're talking about our economic survival, but we're talking about the importance of the role that West Virginia can play in the overall power system of our country in the future.
Right.
So all this stuff is so vital.
Well, and our gas production. I mean, we have got to get a federal government that's going to allow for piping of our natural gas supply. I mean, we are sitting on an ocean of gas right now that we cannot get transport. There's folks in New York right now that are dying to have our gas, and it's 200 miles away. It is 200 miles away. All the heating problems they have is 200 miles away in northern West Virginia right now. And I don't know what we're going to have to do. I mean, I've sat back and spitballed ideas as an attorney, thinking, how do you get around these guys? But I mean, quite frankly, we get excited when our attorney general sues over, some type of gun regulation or things like that. And I'm not saying that you don't do that. But if there was one thing that an attorney general could really help out in this state with doing, it is fighting the federal government and allowing for us to export our gas. I mean, we got markets all around us for it. But the simple fact that the federal government and the EPA is keeping us down and keeping it and deteriorating our ability to transport and export our gas, it's not just harming West Virginia, it's harming the entire East Coast, and it's harming our energy security. We got tankers sitting outside in the Hudson Bay, or not the Hudson Bay, but outside of New York from Russia, sending gas ashore. I mean, Russia is putting on tankers, parking outside of New York City, and charging us an arm and a leg for something that's 200 miles away in West Virginia. If you just come down to Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and get it.
That's just dumb.
Yes.
It sounds like West Virginia needs to find a way to actually get these same tankers and just, float them up there.
Maybe as governor, you could make a canal that goes right.
I'm also like,
I'm starting a canal, and we're going to move it from Huntington to
that's the best of all the canals.
I told you the guy from the commercials was crazy.
There's also something thinking creatively about actually constructing these pipelines and literally matching them up, about 100 yards away from each other from state to state, and then literally asking for forgiveness instead of permission and connecting these things.
That's what I said. I mean, what are they going to do?
Exactly.
Send the 6 guys working for the EPA in West Virginia to stop us? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I would pay a fine.
Hands down.
I would just do it and pay a fine.
Yes.
I think somebody's wanting us to do that.
That sounds encouraging to me. And we need to talk more about that. Let's skin that cat a little bit.
And to bring things back kind of full circle, if we're going to talk about the economic development that is energy in West Virginia, which we're basically saying it's the cornerstone of economic development future in West Virginia, right? It is not lost on me that something like the opioid epidemic, something like addiction, these are things that are greatly helped by things like economic development. In fact, when you talk to experts that discuss this, economic development's the kind of thing that can end it.
Yes.
Jobs, opportunity, something to move forward with is something that would end that problem, or at least dramatically decrease it. And, so there's even another pile on the frustration of this.
Yeah, you brought up a great point with economic development. And what economic development really does is it creates society. And I forget the guy's name that did the rat experiment, where they put heroin in the water for rats in this thing, and of course, somebody came along and changed the experiment. And at first, all the rats died. They would die from heroin overdose eventually. But what they found, if they changed the experiment and because what they were doing, I think they were just putting like one rat in there at a time. If they allowed more rats in there, the rats would quit going to the heroin. That's because they had a society. I mean, if you
they
look
had structure.
Yes, if you look at the core of addiction at its core is loneliness. Is what it really is. It's the removal of you from society. So it becomes a compounding problem. Once you get into it, you have to be secretive about it. So you're becoming reclusive, and the more reclusive you become, the more addicted you become, to the point that you're going out less and less and less, and to the point of this has just consumed your life, and that's all you are. The way to beat it is by building community, and you build community through economic activity like you're talking about, and having opportunities, having hopes, having dreams, having goals. People without a vision perish. That's what the Bible says, right? A people without vision perish. And that's where West Virginia has gotten with the opioid epidemic. It stole us of our vision. It stole from us our dream, our vision, our hopes, all the things that we wanted the future generation to get, and believe in. It stole that from us, and we got to fight to get it back. And the way we fight to get it back is by rebuilding that society, rebuilding that connection, and economic activity is a big part of that.
Well, and part of it too, Chris just recently spoke at a commencement at Marshall University. One of the things you've got these bright young people that are coming up through the state, but then they leave.
Yeah.
We've got to keep them here.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you have to overcome, right? I mean, I don't think, in other words, can we fix who's seriously, in other words, someone who's seriously addicted right now? Yes, there is recovery. There's such a thing. But I don't know if that problem can just be 180 reversed. We need to sort of basically add to the mix the bright youth, right? I mean,
That is, if you really boil it down to its essence, the number one issue, family to family, all across our state, is we want to keep our young people here. And we want to keep our young people successful. We don't want them to leave. And so providing the right economic opportunity to do that is vital. The other piece of that function is if we're talking about the impact that the opiate epidemic has had on our economic development, but what it can do in the future is one of the number one reasons for relapse is lack of economic opportunity. And I'm running lots of businesses in a time where there's been a big change in the labor market. And what we have seen is that there's a huge demand for people that specialize in trades, because we've convinced an entire generation of people that they have to get a college degree. And then they go get a degree in art history, strapped with student debt, living in their parents' basement, have no real opportunity at all, to use, their degree in art history. But you know what right now society and culture needs? Masons, Boilermakers, plumbers, HVAC repairmen, auto mechanics. I can tell you right now, between auto mechanics and body repairmen, we need a bunch of them. That and carpentry, woodworking. I mean, the list goes on and
CDL
on and
drivers.
on. Yes, CDL drivers.
Go get your house remodeled right now and see how easy that goes.
Oh yeah, not only that, not finding somebody, one, but then two, the cost, it's crazy.
Right.
And so there is an opportunity here when it comes to rehabilitating addicts and providing them with the chance for economic mobility and economic opportunity by focusing on part of the rehabilitation process being teaching them trades. I literally think that is a great way to springboard into revolutionizing what the education system is in our country. There is something about the desire and the need for trade education. And what we've done here in Appalachia for a long time, we've always done more with less. I mean, that's something we've always done. And we literally are very, 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 very resourceful people. I've called it Appalachian engineering. We just do a bunch of stuff. You know, I mean, it's just something that happens. You have to learn how to do it, and incorporating that into our education system, and not only at the high school level, but also in the rehabilitation level. I think it'd be vital. I really do.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I've worked on in the legislature was occupational licensing reform. Probably back in 2006 timeframe, you saw the advent of a lot of occupational licenses come along in West Virginia. And it was very protectionist. I'll give you an example. It took 12,000 hours to become a licensed electrician or a licensed plumber to work on your own. Other states, North Carolina doesn't even have a license for it. I mean, you just go do it. We were requiring people to work 12,000 hours before they would become a fully licensed electrician, plumber, you know, this and the other. A sprinkler fitter would be another one. And we fought, myself and Jeff Foster fought to get those numbers down. I mean, we were wanting to get them down significantly, but I think we got them down to 2,000 hours. So you were, and it would come up in the debate about this. It's like, well, you know, these people are working on your plumbing. I mean, this is important. You could destroy your home. And it's like, well, wait a minute. How many hours does it take to be an airline pilot? 300. How many hours does it take to become an attorney? None. You just pass the test. I mean, you pass that test, you become a member of the bar.
You don't have to go to law school. You just have to pass the bar.
You just got to pass the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it's, well, wait a minute. I'm making a guy work 8 years.
Right.
To become a license. Well, so what they do is they learn the business over the course of a year and a half working for an electrician. Well, they do. They move to Charlotte. They move to Lake Norman. They move to Statesville. They move to Spartansburg. And they go down there where you don't even need a license. But they've learned the business. Mm-hmm. And now you got people, young people that have left West Virginia from 2006 to now looking for an opportunity. They moved down to North Carolina. They're making $150,000, $200,000 a year running their own business. You know, more work than they can ever handle.
Our system literally encourages that. We literally have a system of protection in place here that encourages people to learn that and then leave.
Yes.
Which literally perpetuates the problem we're all here talking about.
Yes.
That's dumb.
And it's not sexy to talk about occupational licensing. I mean, everybody, you know, in politics, you know, you want to deal with guns, you want to deal with abortion, you know, things like that. That excites the general public about voting for you, being pro-life, being pro-gun. And I am. I'm all that. But you also need people that can sit there and work on that occupational licensing issue and do it with veracity and in-depth knowledge of it. And that's not sexy to sit and listen to. But God's honest truth, that's what's going to get them to move back. Is that they can come back and have that business where they're making, you know, a decent income and growing their family and growing. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Something as simple as occupational licensing reform. And we've got to do this stuff across the board. Across the board, whether it's barriers to getting government contracts, barriers to building new constructions, with our municipal. I mean, we had a fit with the municipalities that were making you get another license. Like if you got a contractor's license on the state level, or you need one for the city too. I was, well, wait a minute, why are we doing that? That makes absolutely no sense. So we put a stop to that. Again, is that something that is hitting the headlines with Hoppy and everything else? No. But it's those incremental changes that are pushing it back in the right direction. And you're seeing growth. I mean, if you look at the conservative policies that we've put into place over the last 8 years, you are beginning to see what I hope is another 100 years of renaissance here. But I've said this over the last couple of weeks. I think we're getting to a point where we're plateauing with some of that. And we're going to need to really start looking at the next peak and having somebody that can figure out, how am I going to get up there? we're on this plateau. We're doing pretty good. That's where we need to get to, though.
Yes.
How are we going to do that?
It's the next big step. I've got a question for you, not to quite change the subject, but you'd mentioned government contracts. One of the things that's been repetitively mentioned to me over the past couple of months from business owners in our state is, we have a big surplus at the state level. And we can dive into the nuances of what that means and really why. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're setting aside and saving $1.3 billion. It doesn't mean that. But we are in a good financial position for the short term. A lot of these small business owners that are involved with government contracts have been complaining to me about not getting duly paid in a timely manner.
Yeah.
What's one of the things that's really causing that?
So it's multifaceted. There is a law on the books that basically says that you get paid in arrears for services. So let's say you do advertising with the state. They advertise on your medium, okay? They pay in arrears. So you already know at best you're 30 days behind on getting paid. But then it has to go through purchasing. So we have an entire division of government that's devoted to purchasing things for other parts of government. Well, you have this communication problem between purchasing and those other areas that can delay it another 30, 60, 90 days. So you remember me talking about the Medicaid for lawyers. Well, we get paid an hourly rate to do that. That's probably 20% of what it is Medicaid. It's about 20% of what I would charge on the street for a private client coming in. So those invoices typically go anywhere from 120 to 180 days before they're actually paid. So not only are you getting paid practically nothing compared to what you normally get paid, you're forced to do it, and then the government's not paying you for 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. That's exactly what's been said to me over and over again is that, man, I do something for the government. It's taken me 6 months to get paid by the state. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. I mean, that's a problem.
And so
if we want to speed up commerce in our state, then we need to have a system that is much smoother and faster than that.
So there's two sides of it. So take highways. We exempted highways from purchasing because of what you're talking about. And, people look at a lawyer and like, world's smallest violin. We feel sorry for you guys. Now, a highway contractor that's owed millions of dollars that has put his line of credit to the max and everything else is, wait a minute, you guys got to start paying me,
It can shut them down.
Yes. I mean, not getting paid for 6 months on something that large could shut just about anybody down, probably would. So we try to do things a little bit quicker. Well, then we start seeing abuses. So there's this give and take of, you want it to go fast, but at the same time, it's the people's money. So, with purchasing, you have a lot of these things that are put in place to keep things on the rails. What we saw over COVID with the emergency orders. So when the governor put out an emergency order, it relaxed a lot of those purchasing rules when it came to those COVID items. The federal government did the same thing. And what you're seeing on the federal level and the state level is we go back and look over the aftermath of 2020 and 2021, you see why some of these purchasing rules were in place. And so being in government and seeing that side of it, you got to be careful. This is the people's money. This is their tax dollars that got taken. You want to be careful with it. At the same time, a legitimate expense needs to be paid quickly.
Yes.
Not 6 months. So I think there's some play there.
It's funny you mention that because, we have an obligation from a government standpoint to make sure, like you say, to clear up all of our debts and make sure they're to be done correctly. But at the same time, when you're holding that much money, a long period of time over a small business, it can crush them, or a medium-sized business, it can crush them. Large contractors, it can crush them. So finding a better system, utilizing technology can dramatically improve that. At the same time, what I've learned is there's a reason why a lot of these rules exist. And the rules exist because in the past, somebody did something dumb and blew a lot of money by not paying attention, and then the rule has to be instituted. So there's a balance here, right? And I think that's where the importance of technology comes into play.
I think one of the things that I've learned in government of being in the House for 4 years, typically, making a law based off of one situation is a bad idea. So anytime I see a bill that's got somebody's name on it, like so-and-so's law, be careful. You're making a bright line policy based off of an isolated incident.
An emotional response.
Usually it's an emotionally charged incident. And to your point of what you just said, you can look over a lot of, and we talk all the time about this 84 years of Democrat rule, and look what it's done to us. And it's a litany of things just like that, just like you're talking about. And what gets me as a conservative is, okay, that when I talk about being on the plateau, it's like we got to a point where we're trying to manage what they built over 100 years in the most conservative way we can without altering too much of it. That's not going to work. That is not going to work. So, what does it mean to be a conservative now? Is it just managing what was built? Or are we here to change the structure?
That's a great question, Brandon, because you're looking at where we are right now in the House of Delegates and in the state Senate. We have, virtually a super majority. And interestingly, though, there still is this, split House inside of the Republican Party. And, there are some of them that are not necessarily real conservatives. And you are known inside of that legislative body, and you are known inside of your community as being a true conservative. And what does that really mean to you? What does being a true conservative mean?
Well, I think for one, it's not being afraid to address a sensitive issue. And I think there's parts of us that want to be a little more diplomatic, a little more measured in how we go after things. But when you look at the results of the elections that we've had over the last 4 years, the public is telling you, we want you to go after these social issues. It's what they're seeing on the news every night. It's having to deal with the fact that you have hospitals in this state that are advertising transgender therapies for children. And it's like, you go back 10 years to 2012, there were only 2 clinics in the country that even did this, and they weren't here, I can tell you that. Now, not only is it in West Virginia, but there's 200 clinics that specialize in this. And you talked about, the pharmaceutical industry saw us as a cash cow, as a population when it came to opiates. And what was opiates really doing is it was keeping us satisfied. It was keeping us comfortable. There's other things that motivate us, and one of them is fear. So you look at COVID, and you look at all the nonsense that we went through. Now, COVID's real. Don't get me wrong. COVID is absolutely 100% real. But we did a lot of things to each other in the name of fear that, in hindsight, were stupid.
Yep, we overreacted in a lot of senses.
We did. Fear is a huge motivator. Fear is a huge motivator. The other thing is a false morality. This moral high ground that we have concocted out of transgender issues and issues like this. And you look at videos that are coming out of physician meetings at LSU where they're talking about our children as a $40,000 a year asset if we start talking to them at age 10 about suppressing hormones and on down the line.
Brandon, man, I like freedom, right? And what an adult wants to do in their own life, as long as it's not harming somebody else, really, I don't think is necessarily my business. But I do think that, one, the family structure is very, very important, but protecting our kids is vital. And I think that what you're describing here when it comes to gender modification surgeries for children, I think that's child abuse, and I think it's criminal in a lot of senses of the definition. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a dinosaur, and thank God my parents didn't go, "Oh, my son wants to be a dinosaur," and they sew a tail on me and shorten up my arms and put my kneecaps on backwards and then tell everybody, "Look, my child's a dinosaur." It's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely nuts.
And I think part of being a true conservative is addressing these issues where people can get really emotional, they can get really enraged, they can get really, excited, and being able to talk about it logically and not being afraid of that. I think it's addressing economic issues with rationality and honesty of talking about, West Virginia can't just stick its head in the ground. It's got to go out here and innovate, and it's got to be a part of that national discussion. And I think ultimately it's being guided by a set of principles that at its core will tell you that the individual is usually in the best position to morally lead their lives. Government intervention in that, it needs to be kept at a minimum, except where it comes to protecting vulnerable people from harm being done to them by others. And that's a driving principle for me.
Children are impressionable, and children do not understand the real world. And, what we don't want to do is put them in a position where they dramatically damage the overall growth and development of who they will become as adults through temporary actions on childhood decisions. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I draw the line.
Right. And I think, going after that can be uncomfortable for a lot of people that are not good at articulating their position. And because it's really easy when you're a conservative and you're speaking on these things for somebody to look at you, oh, you're a bigot, oh, you're full of hate and all this. No, I'm not. Let's just talk about the logic of what you're talking about here. How did we get to a point in this country where we couldn't sit down and have an honest to God conversation about some of these issues? And I think there's a reluctance on a lot of conservatives' parts to go after those issues simply because they don't know how to defend their position.
And let's be completely honest, when we're talking about medical health professionals, discussing these gender modification surgeries on minors, they're a very, very profitable entity because you're talking about, one, not only the surgery itself, but then you're talking about the constant maintenance and upkeep from a psychological level, from a hormonal level, and from constant revisits as well. That in itself that can skew the decision when it comes to the whole do no harm type of mentality when it comes to healthcare. And I think you're exactly right. These are issues that need logically discussed with the least amount of emotion possible to dig into the real root of the issue, because at the end of the day, I believe if you skin that animal logically, it's a problem and it's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there's the same people that say that kids should be allowed to pursue this stuff are the same people that say, well, college kids shouldn't get guns because their brain's not fully developed. You got to be kidding me. So their brain is not developed enough to have a firearm, but they can make a decision about changing their gender for the rest of their life. That makes absolutely
dramatically
no sense.
Increases from a medical standpoint their likelihood of suicide.
Yes, it's like 4,000%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
dramatically.
Yes,
and at the same time, you who served our country. At a young age, at 17 years old, you were permitted to go learn about how to fire firearms.
Oh, they handed me an automatic weapon.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
They handed me an automatic weapon at 17, but we're telling our kids in college that are, pursuing advanced degrees that they're not quite ready for the responsibility of a firearm, and it's that false sense of morality that comes along of government knows better. Seldom has government gone in and made anything more moral or just. I mean, seldom.
I can't argue that one.
One of the things that might be a blockade to certain even conservative politicians coming out is there are things like the American Medical Association has an approved process for this. The American Association of Endocrinologists has an approved process for this. So when stuff like that is in place, and this might go to your point on how, if you're talking about profitability or what drives that needle, when you have something like the American Medical Association having an official stance or the endocrinologists having an official stance, suddenly there is something for them to cling to in the argument, right? So if that's going to be the debate, if we're going to say that this is child abuse, and it might be, to make sure that we are talking about it not emotionally and logically is to state what actually is happening there. So what is happening there is it's not necessarily a child that is going, oh, I want to be the other sex. My mom said it was cool. Let's go do this. They are going through years of psychotherapy, and they have a doctor that is diagnosing them as gender dysphoric. Then there is a process with the American Medical Association that moves this forward. So it could still be exactly what you're saying. I'm not arguing that. I'm just suggesting it's not like, the liberal mom with blue hair wants her kid to have this, so they do it. That's not really what's creating there. And there's actually an argument the other direction for the suicide rate of those who do not go through the procedure and struggle to survive in their own skin. So you can make that argument. That is the non-emotional other side of that debate. Sure. So, I just want to make sure if we're going to say it this way, I at least want to make sure that the other side of it is brought to the foreground.
And I appreciate that so much. There is something to be said about the evolution of healthcare. And at the same time, these exact same processes and procedures that we're talking about. I mean, we used to lobotomize, females for masturbating. Mm-hmm. This exact same tried and true medical approach is a learning evolution. It's not definitive as soon as it's ruled. It's the exact same thing as our policies when it came to COVID, for example, which is we shut the whole thing down. And when you really dug into that, there were only certain groups that were really at risk, and we didn't need to close down an entire economy and affect the overall education of our children and create even further damage on a societal level by literally just trying. What we should have done is protecting certain risk classes, which is, if you're susceptible to heart disease, if you have a high, BMI, if you have lung issues like that, need to protect them. But the rest of us, it's the same thing.
And please understand, I wasn't arguing with you as much as I want to make sure that we're, at least if we're going to be on this and talking about it, that we present it the right way.
Absolutely. Well, and you bring up a good point. Because I will tell you the thing that shocked me being in the legislature when I first came in was the number of letters that come from an American Academy of Pediatrics, that come from the American Medical Association, that come from the American Heart Association, that come from endocrinologists and on to virologists and on down the line. And it's presented as authoritative. So what I discovered is just being the lawyer animal I am, it is basically a logical fallacy is played on your legislature, and that is confirmation bias. Once you have several different authoritative positions in place telling you that something's okay, you have to hit about 7. Once you have 7 independent entities telling you that this is the right way to do something, it's really hard for you as an individual to resist that confirmation bias. And something as simple as letting kids change their genders to me and you, it's easy. This makes no sense. We shouldn't let kids do this. Well, once you get 7 different medical or psychological
or the AMA,
or social, or the AMA, American Academy of Pediatrics supports it. Or you got to be kidding me. This is the kid's pediatrician. These are doctors that are wanting to help kids. No, it's not. They didn't get together and vote on this. They have an executive director that was propped up by a left-wing think tank that came in and put this thing together, and it's part of the confirmation bias. And it's in your state government, too. The Women's Commission. The Women's Commission for West Virginia. On that thing, I would get something from the Women's Commission every year in the legislature that gave us their platform agenda. And it was getting the Non-Discrimination Act, passed. It was getting the Crown Act passed. It was all these liberal social issues. And I'm like, why in the world are they doing this? Well, just go look at who's on the Women's Commission. The former chair of the Democrat Party, Belinda Byford, was on the Women's Commission. How do you think they were coming up with this? And then you realize that all these various different commissions that were set up years and years ago, they were put there as a confirmation bias.
They were partisan in nature from the beginning, is what you're
Yes,
suggesting. Yeah.
yes. The whole thing was put together so that if you came up with something in the legislature or the governor came up with something that needed some support, there could be an independent group like West Virginia women support this idea. Oh, that's good. Okay, that's good. Well, these are just party politicians as much as anybody else is. And you really got to get down to the nuts and bolts of it. And I would tell you that in politics, it's 95% impression and 5% fact. And the more impression you provide those independent sources, that confirmation bias gets all too real.
Well, and as you know, voters make all their decisions on the emotional scale, right? I mean, that's what they're going for.
Right.
That is exactly right. Changing subjects really quickly, and I wanted to kind of give you a shout out. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but inside of the circles in the House of Delegates, you're kind of known as a sharpshooter in that, you're there, you kind of play a part in what happens with the legislative process, but you also know really well, you're also really well known for being very, very good on your feet and knowing how to pick apart what could be a dumb or damaging bill as soon as it makes it to the House floor and knowing how to like zoop through the debate, get that sucker out of there. You aware of that?
I have killed some bills, using air quotes here. I have killed some bills on the floor. And I will tell you, a lot of it is realizing that groupthink is alive and well in the legislature as much as it is anywhere else. A bad idea repeated often enough will become, in your mind, a good idea. And just consciously resisting that and then being able to show people that by yourself, standing up on the floor, yeah, I've killed a few bills. But they're not... You can't
not good bills.
Right. You can't go in and kill in a supermajority a bill that is good Republican policy that we all believe in. I mean, you can't do that. What you can do is stop us from getting into our own groupthink and doing something ridiculous, and I mean, I guess, yeah, I can gather that, yeah, I do have some influence in debate that I'm probably a little better at it.
You're being humble now, Brandon. I love it.
I have some areas of debate where I may have some strengths.
In other words, let's translate this into real speak. I've stopped the legislature from doing some dumb stuff. I mean, let's call it what it is.
When he gets up to leave, the back of his jacket says debate champion. He's got a belt.
So this has been a very, very informative, very, very deep show. Wanted to kind of move towards an ending of all of this episode with the discussion on like where we are as a state and what do you think the three most important things that we need to be able to accomplish moving forward are?
The first thing that we've got to do is, and I think you touched on it earlier, is we've got to bring people home. And for whoever the next governor is, even if the current governor wants to do it, I would do something that gave them the money to put up billboards in Charlotte, Atlanta, Statesville, up and down the pike, everywhere that my friends growing up moved to.
Electricians welcome in West Virginia.
Yes. Come back home.
And you know what? And you said occupational license, you said wasn't sexy. And I almost jumped in at that moment and I said, you need better marketing.
That's it.
And don't go on and say occupational license is easier in West Virginia. No, it's like electricians equals West Virginia, done,
Yes.
That messaging.
We've got to bring them home because there's actually projects for them to work on now. And we need to let them know, hey, we're alive and well, and we need you to come. We need you to take what you've learned where you went and bring it home and start using it. And we need to build every bridge that we can to make it easy for that person to come home and do that. We need to keep, like you said, our kids that are growing up here and going to school here, we need to keep them here. And we not only need to attract the Nucors and Procter and Gambles of the world, we need to take the kids that are at Marshall, WVU, West Virginia Tech, West Virginia State, UC, up and down the line. And I would love to see us put together a program where you take those kids and say, hey, Here's a list of essential goods. Remember essential goods from COVID that all of a sudden we couldn't get tampons for whatever reason?
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper. My gosh.
I mean, you know, me and my wife discuss things that COVID changed. I have to have the dude wipes now. I just plain toilet paper can't.
I went full bidet.
Oh,
Yeah.
you got the bidet.
I went full bidet. Yes. You walk out cleaner than you walk in. Trust me on that.
I like it.
I'll be the first to say that both of them are actually kind of surprisingly enjoyable. Just saying.
So looking at that, what I'd like to do is there's essentially around 300 essential goods that we discovered in COVID we have a hard time manufacturing. I'd love to see us take, $50 million a year and take, juniors and seniors from our state schools or even the private schools, tell them, you guys get together, get you somebody from the accounting department, the marketing department, get somebody from the engineering school down at Tech or up at WVU, and you guys put a team together, come up with a business plan to manufacture some of these goods. We'll give you a $5 million loan to get started.
And this is the generation of young people who are prepared for that idea of the think tank, of the incubator.
Yes.
Like put them into a pile and see what comes out of it.
Yeah, and look at the high quality people we have. You
Right.
you got Brad Smith, you have Bill Cole. These people that have absolutely made it here. That are doing fantastic. Let them be the judge of it. It's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should invest in that. Get people that are qualified to look at that stuff and say, hey, you know what? You get 20 years to pay this back at a low interest rate, and we start an investment fund like that. Why aren't we doing that? I mean, we should. You want to keep your kids here? Figure out how to give them something that's gonna make their mark in the world.
I love that idea. It's almost like legislative sandboxing on steroids. Like I think it's fantastic. It is using money to encourage our brightest and best to think of ways to solve problems that can make an economic impact not only in the state but in the country. I think that's fantastic.
And even if it wasn't a line item, you could actually make it surplus money that could fund this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you put something like that in the back of the budget, that if we do knock it out of the park with severance or something like we have in the last year and a half, that it's sitting there to do. I would love to see us have that. I think our schools and our technical colleges and universities could all be taken apart in this of creating a workforce, creating a business idea, manufacturing something here, and logistically getting it to the rest of the world. I mean, at the end of the day, when you think about what do we need to do in West Virginia, if you could boil it down to one sentence, we need to make something here that we send somewhere else, and those people send more money back than what it cost us to send it to them. That's what we need to do. That's what we do with coal. We get it out of the ground, we do it with gas, we get it out of the ground, and we try to send it to somebody else. And they send money back to us. And that's what we've got to figure out, how to expand on that idea right here in West Virginia and invest in our young people. Invest in our young people, get the people that left to come back, and keep government as small and efficient as possible. I mean, to me,
It's hard to argue
three
with
big
those.
things.
That's good stuff, man. This has been an absolutely fun, enriching, different, unique episode. And I can't tell you how grateful we are you came and spent some time with us, Brandon.
Well, I really enjoyed it. Now, you say it's a different episode, but I mean, we could come back and just talk about golf and stuff like that.
I would dig that. I think we would have a good time.
It's been real. That's been the most fun part about it all. It's just been real. Everybody's been very candid and very frank and open minded. It's been a blast. But hey, we got to come back and talk about that kind of stuff. Are you much of a golfer at all?
I go and play a lot. I'm not very good at it.
I'm not either.
I'm awful. I'm just
three
the
of us
worst.
would make a heck of a golfing tandem, by the way. I can occasionally, if I practice for a while, I can hit the ball straight, but
I don't know about that. We could all hang out at the 19th hole.
Yes, indeed.
Do that.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I think we all would really enjoy is smoking meats.
Yes.
Ribs.
Are you a meat smoker?
I cook a lot.
Yeah.
And recently, with going into the holidays, I make a lot of fudge. and I make fudge at the house, and the kids love it, and I try different stuff. I've put gummy bears in chocolate fudge and things like this. And
But what about smoked meat? Have you put that inside the fudge?
no, but
Okay, wait a minute. Hear me out.
Rack of ribs inside
Dark
fudge.
chocolate fudge with sea salt and bacon.
That
Ooh,
sounds
now
good.
that I could get down on that.
Bacon inside would be fine.
Yes.
I could do that.
Okay.
Like
I
a
could do
sea
that.
salt crusted chocolate covered
Prove
bacon.
it to me.
Bring it with you next time.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds
Wes and
good.
I both, that's one of the things we like to do is we individually barbecue. I like to cook stuff. He likes to cook stuff.
We like the process of it.
Yeah.
Tell you what, that's an inefficient process we appreciate.
Absolutely.
The slowness of it.
The slow smoking of meat.
You can make that in the oven in 3 hours. Nope. I'm going to spend 13 hours doing this.
But it doesn't get a smoke ring if you do it in the oven for 3
right.
hours. Like,
Well, there's a certain tenderness to it, once you
yeah.
smoke it.
Oh.
It's the way to go.
And
Now
then
I'm
don't get
getting
me started
hungry.
on the Orion cooker. I'm telling you, I got him one for Christmas one year. The Orion cooker, I just did a 20-pound turkey. In 3.5 hours, the thing comes out tasting like deep fried turkey. Like
Really?
The flavor's amazing, but it's basically being like convection cooked in a smoker. So it has wood
Yeah.
chips, the drip pan, the whole nine. But in 3.5 hours, you've got a 20-pound turkey that is amazing.
you put this wood charcoal around the outside of it and light it, and then when you put the food in the lid, then you put more on the top and light it, and it's got like designated times, and the stuff comes out perfect every single time.
I'm getting the time wrong. I was thinking about the pork butt. No, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
20-pound turkey, 2 hours, 15 minutes.
That's
The Orion cooker. And by the way, we're not being paid to say this. We need to. We need Orion to send us some free stuff.
Yeah.
Listen to that, Orion.
We do.
We'll smoke meats with your cooker right here.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been West Virginia Right Now. I'm Chris Miller along with
Wes Thompson.
And we've been here with a fantastic guest, Brandon Steele, out of the south of West Virginia, right in Raleigh County. And this has been a lot of fun, Brandon. We're going to have you back to do this again.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Really
for coming,
enjoyed it.
man. No doubt.